The night she arrived at the old farmhouse, the wind howled like a warning. Olivia stood silently at the doorway, her heart pounding louder than the creaking floor beneath her feet. A storm rolled in over Blue Ridge, painting the sky in flashes of blue and white. She had just married a man she barely knew, Thomas Reed, a quiet, intense farmer with eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. She didn't love him. She didn't even know him. But she needed an escape, and he offered security. A marriage of necessity, nothing more, but nothing could have prepared her for what she was about to find. As she stepped into the bedroom, lightning lit up the room, and that's when she saw it. A framed photo above the fireplace. Her breath caught in her throat. She moved closer, heart pounding, eyes wide. It was Thomas, standing beside her brother. But that couldn't be. Her brother had died 20 years ago in a car crash, when Olivia was only 5. She barely remembered him beyond the stories and the single surviving photo her mother kept hidden in a drawer. And yet, in the picture on the wall, he stood there, unmistakable. Older, alive, smiling. Same face, same eyes, same birthmark under the left eye, same brother. She stumbled back, knocking over a chair. "Who is this?" she asked, holding the photo up to Thomas. His face turned pale. He looked at the picture, then at her, and then he said something she would never forget. "He's not dead, and neither are the secrets your family kept from you." Olivia Davis had always been the kind of woman who carried her past like a second skin, invisible to most, but impossible for her to shed. At 25, she had already buried too many dreams and endured too many disappointments. She grew up in a quiet suburb outside Atlanta, raised by a single mother who never quite recovered from the death of Olivia's older brother, Samuel. He died in a car accident when Olivia was just 5. That's what she was told anyway. Her mother never spoke much about him, except on the anniversary of his death, when she would lock herself in her room with a bottle of wine and the only surviving photo of her son. Olivia, too young to remember the details, only knew that Samuel had been everything to her mom, brilliant, kind, protective. Growing up under that silent shadow made Olivia feel like a replacement, a stand-in for someone her mother never stopped mourning. Still, she tried to make her proud. Good grades, quiet behavior, a stable job as a veterinary assistant. But no matter what she did, her mother's eyes always seemed to look through her. At 19, Olivia left home to live on her own. She took small jobs, moved from town to town, never staying long. Trust was hard for her, relationships even harder. Most men bored her, or worse, tried to control her. She had learned early that survival sometimes meant isolation. She built a wall and told herself she was strong for it, but strength has a cost, and loneliness was a heavy one. Then last year, everything changed. Her mother passed away suddenly, a heart attack in her sleep. Olivia returned home only to find herself drowning in debts her mother had hidden. Medical bills, unpaid taxes, the house she grew up in, gone to the bank. She had no family left, no one to turn to. Just silence and a box of old letters she found beneath her mother's bed. Letters with names she didn't recognize, and one return address that caught her attention: Thomas Reed, Blue Ridge, Georgia. There was no explanation, just envelopes never sent. She had no idea who he was, but something about the handwriting, the urgency, made her curious. Olivia wrote to the address. To her surprise, she got a letter back. Thomas said he knew her mother. He said he could help. Weeks later, they met in person. He was kind, quiet, and uncomfortably perceptive. He offered her a place to stay on his farm while she figured things out. He made no advances, no promises, just a calm invitation. "You look like someone who's searching," he told her, "and I have more space than I need." At first, she refused, but when her last paycheck barely covered groceries and her apartment manager gave notice of eviction, she called him. That call changed everything. Thomas suggested marriage, not out of love, but of necessity. "The land is old, it needs a partner, and so do I," he wrote in a short note left with her at the bus stop. Desperate and out of options, Olivia agreed. She convinced herself it was just temporary. Just until she got back on her feet, she had no idea the answers she'd been chasing her whole life were waiting for her. In the quiet hills of Blue Ridge. No idea that the man she was marrying might be the key to unraveling a truth buried for decades. And it all started with a photo that was never supposed to exist. The first hours on the farm were quiet, too quiet. Olivia had arrived just before sundown. The house was old, weathered, but somehow peaceful. Fields stretched out in every direction, framed by the distant peaks of the Blue Ridge Mountains. A soft fog clung to the ground, like a memory refusing to lift. Thomas welcomed her with a firm handshake and a soft-spoken voice. He barely touched her, spoke only when needed, and didn't smile much. There was something distant in his eyes, like he was always looking at something that wasn't there. He showed her around briefly, pointed out the main bedroom, their bedroom, and left her alone, saying he had to check on the livestock before the storm hit. She nodded, numb from the day, and walked slowly into the room. And that's when everything changed. Lightning flashed through the large window as she stepped inside, casting long shadows across the wooden floor. A deep rumble of thunder rolled in from the hills. The scent of cedar filled the room, old, earthy, familiar in a way that made her stomach tighten. Her eyes scanned the space, a rustic dresser, a modest bed with a handmade quilt, a rocking chair near the window, and a small fireplace built into the far wall. Above it hung a framed photograph, slightly crooked. She felt it before she saw it, a jolt in her gut, as if something inside her recognized what her mind had not yet processed. She stepped closer. The lightning flashed again, and her world collapsed. There, in black and white, were two men standing side by side. One was Thomas, unmistakable even in younger years, and the other was Samuel. She gasped and dropped her bag to the floor. No, it couldn't be. Her knees buckled slightly as she reached out and took the frame down with shaking hands. She stared at the image, her breath quickening. The man next to Thomas was older than the boy in her memories, but the features were the same. The jawline, the arch of the eyebrows, the narrow dimple when he smiled. And under his left eye, the small crescent-shaped birthmark, the same one her mother described in whispers, the same one Olivia saw in the old photo hidden in a drawer next to her brother's baby shoes. She clutched the picture to her chest and stumbled back just as Thomas returned, soaked from the rain. She spun around, her voice cracking. "Who is this?" Thomas froze in the doorway, water dripping from his coat. He looked at the photo in her hands, then at her face. His expression shifted, not to surprise, not to confusion, but to resignation. He stepped inside, shutting the door behind him. "I was wondering when you'd find that," he said quietly. Olivia's voice trembled. "That's my brother, Samuel. He died. He died in a car accident when I was 5. My mother, she..." Thomas shook his head slowly. "He's not dead, Olivia." Silence. Just the crackling thunder outside. Her breath hitched. Her heart raced. "What are you talking about?" Thomas sat down in the rocking chair and stared into the empty fireplace. "Your family lied to you, lied to everyone, and I should have told you before now. But I didn't know if you were ready." The room tilted slightly as the weight of those words sank in. "I saw him, last year, alive, right here." No, that's impossible." Thomas leaned forward. "Your brother didn't die. He disappeared. He was taken, hidden, but he came back." She shook her head violently. "Why would my mother..." "She was protecting him and protecting you. There were things going on back then. Things your mother tried to shield you from." "What things?" What do you mean, taken? Thomas hesitated, then reached into the drawer beside the bed and pulled out a worn envelope. Inside was another photo, newer, full color. Samuel standing in the same field just outside the house. Same face, same birthmark, same eyes, dated just 11 months ago. Olivia dropped to her knees. Her brother was alive. Everything she believed about her past, about her family, had just been ripped apart, and that was only the beginning. The rain didn't stop for 3 days. Olivia barely noticed. She spent most of the time in silence, clutching the photo of Samuel like a lifeline, her mind spiraling with questions that had no answers. Thomas gave her space, speaking only when necessary, cooking meals she rarely touched, feeding the animals while she sat on the porch swing, staring out into the fog. She didn't sleep much. The farmhouse creaked and groaned at night like it too carried secrets. Everything inside her ached. Grief, betrayal, hope, confusion. What kind of mother lies about a child's death? What could have been so dark, so terrifying, that she'd rather raise her daughter in mourning than tell her the truth? But underneath all that pain, there was something else. Something she hadn't felt in years. Possibility. If Samuel was alive, truly alive, then maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone in this world after all. On the 4th day, she found the courage to ask, "Where is he now?" Thomas didn't look up from the woodpile he was chopping. Gone. Again. Her chest tightened. Gone where? He wiped the sweat from his brow. He never said. He just showed up last fall, thin as a scarecrow, bleeding from a knife wound, collapsed right outside the barn. Olivia stared at him, horrified. "And you didn't call anyone?" "I patched him up. He begged me not to. Said if anyone knew he was here, it would put you in danger." "Me?" Thomas nodded. "He said they were still watching you, all these years." "Who? Who are they?" Thomas threw the axe into the stump. "I don't know. He never told me. But whatever he was running from, it wasn't over." That night, Olivia couldn't sleep again. She opened the letters her mother had kept under the bed, all addressed to Thomas, but never mailed. Most were filled with cryptic warnings. "They know about the boy. If I disappear, protect her. Don't trust anyone from the foundation." One stood out, dated just a year before her mother died. "He came back once, just for a night. I begged him to stay, but he said he saw her, saw Olivia, and she's better off not knowing. I told him he was wrong, that the truth is the only thing that can free her, but he's still convinced she's safer in the dark. If you ever see her again, tell her, I'm sorry for everything." Olivia's hands trembled. Thomas was telling the truth. Her mother knew. Samuel returned, and no one thought she deserved to know. The next day, Olivia insisted on seeing the place where Samuel had collapsed. Thomas took her to the barn, a cold, empty structure with hay-stained floors and broken windows. He pointed to a wooden beam where faintly a smear of dried blood remained. "He was here. I sewed the wound on his ribs myself. He stayed in the loft for 3 days, then vanished." "Did he say where he was going?" Thomas shook his head. "He said the less I knew, the better." Frustrated, Olivia climbed the loft alone. It smelled like dust and old straw, but tucked under a broken board, she found something her brother must have left behind. A notebook filled with drawings, symbols, maps, names. One name was circled again and again, Dr. Avery Rains. Olivia felt her heart jump. That name was familiar. She had heard her mother whisper it during one of her sleep-talking episodes when Olivia was young. Avery knew. We should have burned it all. She took the notebook back to the house. Thomas paled when he saw the name. That man used to run the children's center outside town, where your brother went before he vanished. Olivia's mind reeled. Children's center? He nodded slowly. It wasn't what people thought. Rumors said it was a therapy facility, but some said it was a front for research, for experiments. She stared at him, barely breathing. "You think something happened to Samuel there?" Thomas hesitated. "I think your brother was part of something no one wants to talk about." The next week was a storm of revelations. Olivia drove into town, digging through old newspapers in the library. She found a headline from 22 years ago. "Local child dies in car accident. Mother survives." But the article had no photo, no investigation, no official report from the police department, just a short column and an anonymous source quoted as saying, "Sometimes it's better not to ask questions." She began asking anyway. She found an old janitor who worked at the children's center. He refused to speak at first, until she showed him Samuel's photo. His eyes widened. That boy, he was special. In what way? He looked around, lowered his voice. He knew things, could sense what people were feeling, even said he could hear thoughts sometimes. The doctor said he was part of a rare group. What kind of group? The man leaned in closer. Not a group you want to know about. Back at the farm, Olivia began connecting the dots. Samuel hadn't just disappeared, he was taken because of what he could do. Her mother must have learned the truth and gone into hiding, and now she was in the center of it all. Soon, strange things began happening around the farm. A black SUV parked at the edge of the woods one morning, then vanished. Their mailbox was smashed overnight. One morning, all the chickens were gone. The coop door left open, tracks leading into the forest, but not returning. Thomas was on edge. He began keeping a rifle near the door. His hands trembled more often. "They're close," he whispered one night. "I can feel it." Olivia wasn't sure if he meant Samuel or something darker. Each night, she locked the doors. Each day, she scanned the woods for movement. She no longer doubted Samuel was alive. Now, she feared who else knew that too. And the deeper she dug, the more she realized. Finding her brother wasn't just about reunion, it was about survival. The night the truth came crashing down started in complete silence. No wind, no owls, not even the distant chirp of insects. Olivia noticed it first. The unnatural stillness. The way the horses in the stable pressed against the far wall, nostrils flaring, muscles tense, as if they too could feel something approaching. Thomas stood by the porch with the rifle in hand, watching the tree line. "They're here," he whispered. "I don't know how, but they're here." The lights inside the house flickered once, then went out. Total darkness. Olivia's breath caught. Her heart pounded so hard, she thought it would crack her ribs. She grabbed a flashlight from the drawer and pointed it at the window. Nothing, just her own reflection, pale and wide-eyed. Then she heard it, the soft crunch of boots on gravel. Someone was walking up the long path to the farmhouse. Thomas signaled for her to stay low. He stepped outside, the door creaking behind him. For a moment, Olivia was alone. And then a voice came from the hallway behind her. "I didn't want you to see me like this." She spun around, flashlight shaking. There in the doorway stood a man, mid-30s, thin, worn, eyes haunted by too many years of running, blood on his shirt. But it was him, Samuel, alive. "Sam!" Her voice broke like glass. He stepped closer, slowly, as if afraid she'd vanish if he moved too fast. "It's me." Tears blurred her vision. She rushed into his arms, sobbing into his shoulder. "I thought you were dead. All these years." "I know. I'm sorry. I wanted to come back so many times." "Why didn't you?" He pulled away, looking at her with pain in his eyes. "Because I knew if I came back, they'd follow me. And now they have." Gunshots echoed from outside. Thomas yelled. Samuel grabbed Olivia's hand. "We have to go. Now." "But Thomas!" "He knew this might happen. He's buying us time." They sprinted out the back door, through the tall grass behind the barn. Samuel led her toward a rusted drainage tunnel hidden behind a thicket of trees. "Where does this go?" she asked between gasps. "Old rail line. It's not used anymore, but it leads to a safe house." They crawled through the tunnel, the darkness swallowing them whole. Olivia's hands scraped against jagged concrete. The air was damp and cold. Finally, they emerged into a clearing. But before they could take another step, headlights flared in the trees ahead. 3 men stepped out of a black SUV. One of them held a long syringe. "End of the road, Samuel," said the tallest one. "You should have stayed gone." Samuel shoved Olivia behind him. "She has nothing to do with this." The man laughed. "She's your sister. That makes her everything." He raised the syringe and fired a tranquilizer dart. Samuel twisted, the dart embedding into his shoulder. "No!" Olivia screamed. He dropped to his knees. "Run!" he whispered. But Olivia didn't move. She grabbed a rock from the ground and hurled it at the nearest man, hitting him square in the temple. He staggered. She lunged for Samuel, trying to lift him. The second man advanced with a taser. Before he could strike, a loud crack rang through the clearing, and he fell. Thomas emerged from the woods, blood on his face, rifle smoking. "Not tonight," he growled. The third man turned to run, but Thomas fired again, this time into the dirt near his feet. "Tell Rains if he wants them, he'll have to come himself." The man hesitated, then fled into the trees. Olivia cradled Samuel as he struggled to stay conscious. "Don't let them take me," he murmured. "If they get me back, they'll never let me go again." Thomas kneeled beside them. "We have to move, now, while we still can." As they carried Samuel into the forest, Olivia looked back once. The farmhouse, the life she thought she was building, now stood behind a wall of fire. The men had set it ablaze. Everything was gone, except the truth and the brother she thought she'd lost forever. The fire consumed the farmhouse long into the morning. From a distant ridge, Olivia watched the flames devour the porch where she'd once sipped tea, the bedroom where she found the photo that changed everything, and the barn that once held her brother's silence. Everything physical had turned to ash, but for the first time, she didn't feel empty. She felt awake. Samuel slept for nearly 36 hours after the escape, his body battling the drugs, the pain, and the years of fear he'd buried. Thomas, always stoic, remained close, patrolling the edges of the safe house, a small, half-buried cabin in the middle of the forest, known only to men like him, those who lived in the shadows for the sake of others. Olivia sat beside her brother, brushing his damp hair back gently. His face was thinner but still his. His breath was shallow but steady. And when his eyes finally opened, she smiled. "I thought I'd lost you again," she whispered. Samuel tried to sit up, winced, then nodded. "I thought I'd lost myself." Over the next few days, the truth unfolded, slowly, painfully. Samuel told her about the center, the experiments under the guise of cognitive therapy, how certain children with unusual neural patterns were isolated, studied, sometimes manipulated, how he and a few others had been used in trials to amplify empathy, sensitivity to emotion, and, in rare cases, perception beyond the normal senses. "They wanted to train us," he said, "not for medicine, for control." "They?" Olivia asked. He nodded. Avery Rains was just a scientist, but behind him, there was money, institutions, people who didn't care about what it cost us, only what they could use. He'd escaped at 13 after one of the experiments nearly killed a girl named Clara. He ran. Her mother hid him. Later, so did Thomas. Their mother, discovering the truth too late, staged his death to protect him and to give Olivia a clean break from the eyes that were always watching. "She saved me," he said, "but it broke her. She lived every day afraid I'd be caught, and every day watching you grow up thinking I was dead. I begged her to tell you, but she wouldn't risk it." Now, the truth burned in Olivia's chest, hot, alive, painful and freeing all at once. She mourned her mother all over again, this time with understanding. She'd never wanted to abandon Olivia. She'd sacrificed her own peace to give them both a chance. In the weeks that followed, they stayed hidden. Thomas helped them build a new life, documents, a safer place, connections with those who'd once fought to shut the program down. Through it all, Olivia transformed. She was no longer the woman who married out of despair, who let the world shape her life. She was someone new, fierce, awake, unwilling to ever live in darkness again. She started documenting everything: Samuel's memories, the center's records, interviews with former workers. Slowly, carefully, she began to build a case, not just for justice, but for truth. Others are still out there, she told Thomas one night. Kids like Samuel. We have to find them, help them. And when Samuel was strong enough, he agreed. They became a team, not just siblings, but survivors on a mission. The name Avery Rains still sent chills down her spine. He was out there somewhere, waiting, watching, but this time she wasn't afraid. She had the truth. She had her brother, and she had a fire inside her that no one could extinguish. One evening, as the sun set over the ridge, Samuel placed a photo on the wooden mantel of their new cabin. It was the same one Olivia had found in the farmhouse, him and Thomas, young and whole. Below it, she placed another, one of their mother, smiling softly in front of a cherry blossom tree. A tribute, a promise. Olivia stood in the doorway, the wind brushing through her hair. She was no longer running, she was becoming. Have you ever felt your world collapse, only to find strength in the ashes? Olivia's journey from a fearful, desperate bride to a courageous seeker of truth shows that even the darkest secrets can light the path to our own transformation. If her determination and love for her brother moved you, share your own moments of resilience in the comments. Your story could inspire someone who needs hope right now. Did the twists and revelations grip you? Hit like if you felt Olivia's fear and triumph, and subscribe to join us on her continuing quest to uncover the secrets of the Children's Center. Don't forget to ring the bell so you won't miss the next chapter of this saga. And if you're as determined as Olivia to fight for truth and justice, let us know. What would you do if you discovered a hidden past like hers?